Weather on the Ones, every 10 minutes. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Hi, everybody. It's Friday morning. This is Spectrum News 13. I'm Yvette Broussard.
TGIF. I'm Julie Gargata. Time now for top stories and weather in the next 90 seconds. And yes, they say violent crime is down, but work still needs to be done. It's the message from Orlando Police Chief Eric Smith as he answered so many community questions in a forum last night, part of this series of quarterly meetings held across the City Beautiful.
Biketoberfest continues. Today is day 2 of the 4-day event. Over 100,000 people showing up to Daytona Beach. If you plan to go out there, slow your roll. Be cognizant of the drivers around the area. It's going to be happening through Sunday.
And tomorrow, thousands are also expected to gather in downtown Orlando for this year's Come Out with Pride Festival and Parade. Here's some video from last year's event. Very colorful, very loud. The festival starts Saturday noon at Lake Eola.
And now we're focusing on the forecast this Friday morning with Chief Meteorologist Brian Carrick. No rain to worry about, my friend.
No rain for the next several days. Actually, beautiful weather. Couldn't ask for better for all of our festivities going on this weekend. Sunshine today, and how about temperatures up into the low and a few mid-80s. 84 is what I'm shooting for here in the City Beautiful. That is our average high. That's where we're going. Average highs today under a mostly sunny sky. So a fantastic Friday lined up. Slightly warmer air this weekend, and our dry stretch is set to take us right into next week.
You know, the picture for the roads could not be more different. Jacqueline, Harold, what's going on? Bumper to bumper traffic?
Yes, this is a crash we've been watching since earlier this morning. This is on 408 West. The off-ramp to I-4 has been blocked off for several hours now, and you can see all of this traffic built up now, just trying to move through in 2 lanes over there. So you might want to add some extra time for sure if you're already stuck in this traffic, but maybe choosing a different route if you haven't hit the roadways just yet. Looking at the big map, we're seeing those slowdowns starting to show up with a crash also on I-4. We'll have that and another look at a crash in Brevard coming up in the next 10 minutes. This report brought to you by your Central Florida Hyundai dealers.
Time right now is 8:02. More work needs to be done. That's what Orlando Police Chief Eric Smith says, despite revealing that violent crime, he says, is down in the City Beautiful.
Okay, so he spent part of the night last night addressing some concerns, answering a lot of questions from people who live in the community.
Celeste Springer is joining us live just outside Orlando Police headquarters.
Yeah, he had one of his quarterly meetings, Celeste, last night. So tell us, what are some of those key takeaways?
Well, Chief Smith says that shootings are down 42%. However, keep in mind, he also admits that there is some room for improvement because plenty of people came up to him during the meeting with questions, concerns.
We'll continue with that story in just a moment. Right now, I want to let you know that Representative Jordan is holding a press briefing in Washington, D.C. regarding the vote that's happening sometime later this morning. Let's listen in.
On Spectrum News, Republican Congressman Jim Jordan is discussing the upcoming speaker vote after his last 2 attempts to secure the gavel failed. Let's listen in.
The door.
We were just listening to Congressman Jim Jordan discussing his bid for the speaker's gavel, sounding a bit like a stump speech at times. Jordan stressing there is much work to be done on Capitol Hill, urging his colleagues to elect a speaker so they can get back to work. Let's go to our Angie Gonzalez in Washington. Angie, why hold this press conference before the vote? Well, Angie, thank you so much for walking us through all of that. There are tons of twists and turns we're all watching very closely, and we will continue to update all of you on what's happening on Capitol Hill. Thank you for watching. I'm Erin Billups. More news right now on Spectrum News.
Just ahead on Spectrum News, it sounds exotic, but it's kind of gross. It's a tropical parasite detected here in the United States, and it's carried on an insect smaller than a mosquito.
Something so tiny causing big problems, but we're learning this morning about the infection it can cause and what you can do to protect yourself. We'll be right back with that story and more.
Spectrum News 13 is brought to you by Fun Spot America. It's huge.
Here are your winning lottery numbers.
TGIF, my friends. You know, we've had a stretch of dry weather, and we're going to take a stretch with us into the next several days. As we see, we're running just a slight deficit for the month of October. And if you were with me last night, you actually probably heard me talk about dry season and how it seems like we have welcomed it with open arms. This is typically when cold fronts drop south and bring cooler, drier air. We had that earlier this week. Now we're starting to warm things up a little bit more. Rain chances, they spread themselves out and typically occur along these fronts. We've got a front coming in this weekend that will not bring us any big rain. And the average starts, well, it's October 15th, so we are right on par for dry season. And as I mentioned, we'll welcome it because now we'll take the next several months of very comfortable air. And looks like we'll take that right into April or mid-May of next year. Okay, let's get into our forecast here as we watch high pressure build on in. Our front upstream is going to begin to fall apart. It will make it down tonight into tomorrow. And so with that said, maybe a sprinkle overnight. That's about it. But the front is going to completely fizzle out during the day tomorrow, and we have warm air that is on the way. So let's get into our boating forecast for today. We'll have a southwest wind going to be turning westerly here, central southern Brevard County, picking up at 10 to 15 knots this afternoon, a light chop, Indian River and Banana River. Wave heights 2 to 3 feet, northern Brevard, southern Volusia County, winds picking up out of the west later this afternoon, 10 to 15 knots. Same thing, northern Volusia and Flagler County. If you're out at the coast, those winds will start to pick up a bit. We'll have wave heights 2 to 3 feet. At the beach, port, fair surfing conditions, a lower period east-northeast swell, a moderate rip current risk, so do be careful if you're swimming, and I do so near an open lifeguard stand. The average high 84, that's what we're going today. We were there yesterday, we'll be there again today, but note, temperatures this weekend, slightly warmer, mid-80s expected, dry conditions on Saturday and Sunday, dry on Monday as well. We'll have that front, another front, a second front dropping in, not bringing us a big drop in temperature. We'll slip slightly Tuesday and Wednesday, and we'll throw in a slight shower chance by the middle or end of next week.
A very busy morning on the roadways. This is a crash we've been tracking for several hours now. This is on 408 West. This was the off-ramp to I-4 that was blocked off for that crash, which it's now still isolated to that ramp, but you can see all of this traffic that has built up. We're told up into Mills Ave and a little further than that. So you might want to add some extra time to your commute if you're already in this area, or I'd advise another route if you're just hitting the roadways. Looking at the bigger map, we're seeing those slowdowns start to show up for that commute, and I'll take you to some quick drive times just so you can see. About 26 minutes on I-4 eastbound from Champions Gate to 528. On I-4 westbound from 408 to Disney World, about 14 minutes, and Florida's Turnpike to State Road 50 to I-4, about 10 minutes. This report brought to you by your Central Florida Hyundai dealers.
Taking you now to Orlando International Airport as we learn more about the upgrades that the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority, or GOA, has planned at the airport. GOA's board approving a contract to start outlining its Phase 2 development program, expanding Terminal C, the newest terminal, to accommodate between 16 and 24 more gates. Now, by the end of the year, some big numbers expected here. GOA says the total number of travelers should near 58 million. Also getting GOA approval, a replacement of the APM, the automated people mover. It looks like a tram. They're hoping to complete that project by spring of 2027, plus some improved airfield signage, surfaces, pavement markings at both MCO and Orlando Executive Airport, with all of that work set to start next month.
Time now for your health news this Friday morning. We're about to show you a tiny little bug that's causing big problems. Health experts are warning about a new tropical parasite in the United States, and there is a picture of this thing that everybody's talking about. It passed through the bite of a sandfly, can cause an infectious disease to the skin. These tiny tan flies you see right there, about a quarter of the size of a mosquito. They're tiny, so they can slip right through Well, some say typical window screens. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says they've now detected the disease in a number of tissue samples from patients who say they have not traveled outside of the U.S. Severe cases can be deadly if left untreated. Experts say they're still learning about the bugs, but they can be repelled, we're told, by bug sprays containing DEET.
Because you see people that give up, and I didn't want that to ever be me.
Don't go anywhere. Coming up this morning, we're talking about unrelenting optimism in the face of adversity. You worked on the story.
That's right. It's a dose of that can-do attitude on your Friday, after all, and some seriously sweet service dogs. It's coming up in your Feel Good Friday story. That's next. It's finally Friday. I'm Julie Gargata. Thanks for joining us here.
It's the bottom of the hour. I'm Yvette Brussois. Top stories and weather in 90 seconds. Orlando City Commissioners will decide this coming Monday whether to approve or not the $2 million purchase of the Pulse nightclub. Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer says there's no plan yet, concrete plans on what the city will do with the interim memorial or the land. If approved, the city could close on the property next Friday.
Then police in Port Orange are looking for more possible victims after they arrested this man for impersonating a contractor during a state of emergency. Police say that Steve Parker defrauded a woman of tens of thousands of dollars.
And tomorrow, thousands are expected to gather in downtown Orlando for this year's Come Out with Pride Festival and Parade. This video from last year's event, always very popular. It starts tomorrow at noon at Lake Eola.
But wondering what the weather will be like for that, of course, in the weekend.
Yeah, let's find out what we're tracking right now on Klystron 13.
We had a few clouds with us last evening and overnight, pushing out quickly today, leaving us with a sunny sky and really pleasant temperatures. Should be back up to where we're supposed to be for highs, low and a few mid-80s. Best rain chance going to be North Florida today, maybe a strong storm north of Jacksonville. The rest of us soaking up that sunshine. Again, high temperatures up into the low, potentially mid-80s, and we'll take this right into the upcoming weekend with us as well.
A very busy morning on the roadways. We're still watching the impacts of a crash here on 408 West. This I-4 ramp is closed, but you can see traffic has built up quite a bit. It's been this way for a couple of hours, and this is just another view of that. This is looking in the Crystal Lake Drive area. You can see this is just before you get to that crash, and all of this traffic still built up as they make their way towards it. So if you haven't already hit the roadways, I'd suggest a different route. But you can start to see that those slowdowns are also showing up on the bigger map, especially in the Champions Gate area. We're watching a crash there as well. I'll have more of that and a crash in Brevard County that we're watching in the next 10 minutes. This report brought to you by your Central Florida Hyundai dealers.
Bringing you the story of a grieving mother. She is on a mission after her daughter died nearly 20 years ago, and she doesn't want what happened to her to happen to anyone else.
Wait until you hear what happened. Angie Andrews is joining us this morning from the Skyway Bridge on the other side of I-4. Earlier this morning, it was lit up purple. Here's why. You know, there are those among us who never stop. They take on more and more, always stepping in to help somebody out.
And some do it while navigating a disability. So if you on this Friday are looking for a sign you should be living your full life, you want to listen to this woman living hers thanks to him. You know, ever since they were matched by canine companions, Adams and Opus, they have been inseparable. Meanwhile, this is also the 50th anniversary of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. It's the first federal legislation to prohibit discrimination and address access and equity for those with disabilities.
Okay, their first Big 12 win. That's the goal for the UCF Knights this weekend. They're playing tomorrow.
Yeah, but right now we're talking about what the head coach Gus Malzahn says the team needs to do to get back on track.
Don't go anywhere. That story coming up in a moment. We'll be right back.
Felt like somebody was pushing me that you need to be a journalist. You're a journalist, you're a recorder of history. Here in Central Florida, people are very excited to teach you and to share. Every day it's something new. That's the beauty of being in news, which is why I've never had any other job except for this.
It is now 41 minutes past the hour. I'm Brian Carrick with you on a Friday. You know, we've been on a bit of a roller coaster temperature-wise. Let's go back to last Friday, the 13th. We jumped up to 91, and then we slipped way back. Lower 70s on Monday and Tuesday as a strong front passed by us. And temperatures, well, they climbed up to 84 yesterday. That's where we're headed today under a sun-filled sky. So we had a few clouds. They are exiting. High pressure is sliding to our east. We will go with a mostly sunny afternoon, maybe a couple clouds here and there, adding some texture to our sky. But that's it. No rainfall. And if you are out and about anywhere, make sure you've got the sunscreen. You can get yourself a good burn going in under 20-25 minutes. Now, overnight, a front to our north may help to squeeze out a sprinkle or two. That's it. Again, the chance is so very low, it's barely worth mentioning, but I'll throw in the sprinkle as you're sleeping, and we'll wake up with lots of sunshine, and we are expecting dry air with us again tomorrow. Another sun-filled sky and high temperatures that are just a little bit warmer than today as we get you both into Saturday and Sunday. Let's put it together today, mostly sunny and breezy. There's that average high 84. And that's where we're headed. How about your forecast tonight? Clear to partly cloudy, an isolated sprinkle, mid-60s. Your forecast into the upcoming weekend, mid-80s both Saturday and Sunday. Now, it may feel a touch humid tomorrow, especially after having such a dry week overall. But overall, temperatures slightly above average. And yes, the weekend does look dry for all of our festivities, or maybe you're out picking out a pumpkin for Halloween. The big weather story, if you're doing any traveling, maybe you're running into some delays here across the eastern third of the nation. Rain, especially up into the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes. An isolated severe threat from Charlotte, North Carolina down through Columbia and Charleston, South Carolina also includes Savannah, Georgia. And here's a look at your forecast from coast to coast.
Taking another look at this crash that we've been watching on I-4. This is looking west, but it's these eastbound lanes that were mainly impacted in the Champions Gate area. You can see how traffic has backed up, pulling up to where that crash was. The lanes are still open. That crash has moved over to the shoulder, but you can still see that traffic is slowly making its way through. But looking at the bigger map, you're seeing those slowdowns again starting to show up on the larger map. And I'll just take you to some drive times really quickly. About 41 minutes on I-4 eastbound from US 27 to 535. About 12 minutes on I-4 westbound from Dirksen Drive to 434. And on State Road 408 westbound from 417 to downtown, you're looking at about 19 minutes. This report brought to you by your Central Florida Hyundai dealers.
Destination Space News on a Friday morning. The scheduled launch still more than a year away, but you know, things are getting going already. There's so much training that has to happen for NASA's Artemis II crew members. So NASA says that some of the members took part in a geology training last month. There they are, digging, exploring. The Artemis II mission will not land on the moon, of course, but NASA says the training will prepare them for lunar observations. Last month, the 4 astronauts took part in a dry run of launch day operations. That included a trip in NASA's new electric crew transport vans. Up next, NASA says the astronauts will begin orbit operations training, including the use of a simulator at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas.
We often say SpaceX is at it again, and guess what? The company could set a record now from our Space Coast this weekend, aiming for a Saturday launch of the next group of Starlink satellites. Those satellites would go up from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station on board a Falcon 9 rocket. Well, the company's most recent Starlink launch, it was on Tuesday, was the 57th overall mission to take off from our Space Coast this year, tying the single-year record from 2022.
I'm Mike Aarons, and this is your Sports Minute.
Get your football snacks ready for tomorrow's Big 12 matchup between UCF and Oklahoma. I know that one of our evening anchors, Tammy Fields, will be watching closely. That's her team, but UCF is my team. We'll see who wins. Okay, the Knights are still after their first win in the Big 12. The 6th-ranked Sooners will be a tough team to beat, so say the observers. Here's what UCF's head coach says needs to happen to get a W.
End zone touchdown, Harvey.
It's more about kind of getting back to the basics, getting back to who we are offensively, defensively, and special teams. I know it's been really good for our coaches, which usually that's the case, you know, because you get so wrapped up in your opponent and scheme. And for the first time, you can really look back and you can watch every rep on all 3 phases. There's some glaring things that we need to improve on.
All right, the big game kicks off at noon tomorrow in Norman, Oklahoma.
I'm Randy Rausch with Florida on a Tankful, hanging with some amazing and talented musicians who play the kind of music you actually know some of the words, and they do it all by candlelight. Wait till you see these people. I'll have that story coming up next.
Tropical storm Tammy holding its own about 100 miles to the northeast of Barbados today. It's kind of lopsided, but it's trying, and eventually it is going to gain some steam and become a hurricane. As a matter of fact, it could become a Category 1 hurricane tomorrow afternoon as it comes up and over the Leeward Islands to the east of Puerto Rico. And note, as we work our way through the next several days, eventually it's going to turn to the north and then northeast as a Category 1 hurricane by the middle of next week, passing well off to the south and east of Bermuda. We have a number of tropical storm warnings, tropical storm watches in place. We even have a hurricane watch for the northern islands. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see at least watches extend a little closer to Puerto Rico at some point tonight. But this storm system is not going to make a direct impact on the island of Puerto Rico at this point. So let's get you into the satellite image. I mentioned it's a little lopsided, moving to the northwest, eventually turning off toward the north and then northeast and out to sea. It will not impact us here in the U.S. Across the rest of the Atlantic Basin, fairly quiet. Do have a disturbance that's trying to actually develop here in the southern Caribbean. This will actually make it to Central America, will not come up into the Caribbean, at least the Central and Northern Caribbean at this point. So no threats to us here. Yeah, we've got a couple of fronts. That's the only threat that we're expecting. And it's really not a threat because each front that is coming on in is going to fall apart. So today, we are ahead of that front. We have high pressure and control as the front drops south tonight. Maybe a sprinkle, but that's about it. So lots of sunshine in your forecast for Friday. A fantastic Friday overall. Dry conditions are expected. Tonight, that isolated sprinkle, but we are expecting temperatures to warm even more for your Saturday and Sunday. Again, that front just completely falling apart to our north. Kena Ponds, ragweed, your problem ponds running moderate today, low to moderate as we get you into the weekend. Here's that 7-day 80 for the average. We'll go for an average high today, slightly above it tomorrow and Sunday. Another front comes on in, a second front Sunday night into Monday with just a slight drop in temperature by Tuesday and Wednesday.
Take a final look at this crash we've been watching since this morning. This is 408 West. We have the I-4 ramp closed to I-4 for a crash, and you can see that traffic building up. I'm going to show you some final drive times this morning. About 21 minutes on 408 westbound from 417 to downtown. About 8 minutes on 408 eastbound from Florida's Turnpike to downtown. And about 14 minutes on State Road 417 southbound from US 1792 to State Road 408. Again, starting to see those slowdowns this morning for that commute. Hope you guys have a great and safe morning. Make sure to move over and slow down for those emergency vehicles. This report brought to you by your Central Florida Hyundai dealers.
All right, so what happens when you combine these super talented musicians and then a room filled with thousands of candles?
Look at my face.
You want to go?
I'm in awe. It's called a candlelight concert. They've been happening around Orlando for the past year or so. I've never attended, but everybody's talking about this.
Guess who went? Our Randy Roush taking us there to this venue in Winter Park where candles and musicians combine for a live multi-sensory musical experience in this week's Florida on a Tankful. Take a look.
I'm attorney Todd Miner, a proud supporter of the fight against breast cancer. Now, here's a look at what's happening in our community.